In this week's edition of the Top 10, the reserve list sees some solid sales action with a few surprises. Increased sales volumes mean that a lot of players are showing some interest, so this week's Top 10 reserve list from August 10th to the 17th may come as a bit of a surprise if you're not a reserve list investor. Let's go ahead and take a look at your Top 10 selling reserve list cards. Hi everyone and welcome back. MTG Moxman here, and thank you again for tuning into the channel as we go over the top 10 selling cards on the reserve list this week. A reminder, if you want to support my channel, you can become a patron, a YouTube membership member, or of course you can use my TCG player affiliate link that's found in the description of all my videos. But enough of this kind of like shilling for myself, let's get to the number 10 card. And this week we are stopping in at URZA Saga with Gaia's Cradle. Now this card is an expensive one, it does get used a lot, and at $819.98 per copy of near mint quality, this is an expensive card. Now the 31 sales we're seeing this week represent $27,878.38 of total sales action, and let's not forget guys that this card, it's not going to be reprinted, it's not coming around again, and it does some pretty phenomenal things because this legendary land does state that you get to add 1 green to your mana pool for each creature you control. Now, when you start using this with token generation inside of a commander deck, especially with what we've seen from Bloomburrow, cards like this become even more indispensable, and a lot of players are working their way up to trading into high quality cards like this, and for good reason. After you own one, you never have to get rid of it or go back. Let's go ahead and take it to number 9. This is the Hall of Gemstones from Mirage. Now this card only comes in at $12.63 per copy. There was 45 copies sold this week, which is a total sales volume of $568.35. That means literally you could buy 45 copies of this, or maybe just one beat up Underground Sea. I know most people will take the Underground Sea, but I'm just showing the difference in pricing for cards like this, and this card has been a lot higher, so remember that. Now, Hall of Gemstones for 2 green and 1 generic does say Enchant World. During each player's upkeep, that player chooses a color. Until end of turn, each mana-producing land produces mana only of the chosen color instead of its normal color. Now, for players who are using mono green, this destroys a lot of decks and can mess up multicolored 5-color decks, and a lot of players never see it coming. And the consistency in the sales volume of this card lets us know that it does have some uses, and some players are interested in trying this card out. Now, for our number 7 card, this is Winding Canyons, and this should come as no surprise. This one here has saw a lot of action in the last couple of weeks. It still comes in at 46 sales this week, and at $40.48 per copy, the $1,862.08 in total sales action doesn't really represent what the whole market is feeling, but it's the most sales I could track down in the time given. So let's take a closer look at this card and understand why players might be interested in using a card like Winding Canyons. Now this card doesn't come into play tapped, it's not a legendary land, and of course it does get played in Commander for obvious reasons. It does say tap to add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool, or pay 2 and until end of turn you may play creature spells as though they were instants. Now of course in the Eldrazi deck this is just insane. The Atrocity is using it, so pay attention to cards like this, because just because it's in a lull now doesn't mean it's not going to spike again later on. This card has doubled in value in the last month, and a lot of players are showing some interest, so it's a card to at least keep on your radar. Now, coming into our next card, we are going to see that this is Yaviah Hollow from Urza's Destiny. This card comes in at $69.93 on average, and there are 60 sales this week, which is $4,195.80, or basically one kind of near mint Mox Pearl. Kind of insane to think about it, but that's the way we're going with this conversation today. So for Yaviah Hollow, again, it's one of those types of lands that players like to use in certain decks, especially mono green or mixed color green, because this thing does allow for regeneration. It is a legendary land, which means it fits perfectly into Commander's one off of, and it also adds 1 colorless mana to your mana pool, not coming into play tapped. But you can use that 1 green to regenerate a target creature, and regeneration is not a game effect that Wizards of the Coast likes to utilize anymore, so because of this and the slow pace it can make in a game, this card doesn't see a lot of action from Wizards of the Coast in years, but for players they recognize the value of a card like this and the value of the regenerate ability. So keep this card in mind, all you board clearance people, it is around. Now for our next card, of course, we're going squirrel shopping because this is the Liege of the Hollows. This card is $14.06. It had 61 sales this week, which is only $857.66. This card has literally sold hundreds and hundreds of copies in the last couple of weeks, and which is why it's been consistently in my top 10 videos. Now, the reason for this, though, is, of course, the release of Bloomborough, as well as what people were hoping to be in Modern Horizons 3. We didn't get squirrels, but Bloomborough definitely gave us the action we were looking for, and that's why this card jumped up, because this thing, for 2 green, 2 vanilla, just generic, you got a 3/4 summon spirit, but when it's put into graveyard from play, any player can pay any amount of mana to make any number of squirrels, and they're treated as 1/1 green creatures. This can be insane, but when used the right way, yeah, you're going to win the game. So let's go ahead and take a look at our next card. This is a total surprise coming in from Weatherlight. This is the Tolarian Entrancer. I've always enjoyed the artwork. I like the card. It had 81 sales this week, but guess what? It's kind of laughable, right? It's only $154.71 because it's only $1.91 per copy. It has been a few bucks higher than this. It did have buyouts in 2021, 2022, but now we're seeing where this card is going because somebody has taken an interest in it. And whenever you get a person taking an interest, it can move the market because it doesn't take a lot of money to move low-end reserve list cards. Now, for this card, Tolarian Entrancer, for one blue, one generic, don't mind the mocks, man. It is a summon wizard, and it says whenever Tolarian Entrancer is blocked by any creature, gain control of that creature at the end of combat. So really, all you need to do is have this guy block some insane creature, flash it into play and block with maybe the Winding Canyons, and then, of course, find a way not to let it die, give it indestructible, etc., and you're going to take control of your opponent's creature. Pretty amazing, actually. Now, for our next card, we got Thrall Champion coming at us from Fallen Empires. Now, this card is $2.50 on average. It had 90 sales this week, and no, it was not the Mox man buying the card. But that's only $225 of total sales action, which is not a lot of money. And of course, that's 90 copies sold in a set that is like one of the most failed ever sets in Magic for the actual consistency and power level, but the lore of this type of block is amazing. Fallen Empire's storyline is amazing. So, Thrall Champion is 1 black, 4 generic. It's a 2/2. All Thralls get +1/+1, including itself. It says take control of target Thrall. If you lose control of Thrall, if Thrall Champion leaves play, or you lose control of Thrall Champion. This does work with shapeshifters and changelings. It can mess people up if they don't see it coming down the line. And of course, if we ever get a Thrall tribal deck, this thing is going to be insane. And you know I say when, not if. It is actually when we get one, because Wizards eventually will do that sort of thing. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our next card, and this one's a little bit insane. It's got quite the storied history. This is Deranged Hermit, following along like the Liege of the Hollows. 116 sales this week, which is $9,860 of total sales action. It's averaging 85 bucks, but it's actually a little bit higher than that most places you look. Here in Canada, it's around 140 bucks for this card right now. And if you're looking on things like TCG Player, you're going to find it for around $95 to $110. This is a very expensive card right now, and of course that's related to what we've seen in Bloomborough, as well as past decks where players haven't sold the card. When people control the card and don't sell it, well, that's where we go. Now, it is a 2 green, 3 generic, 1/1 with Echo, and it does say when Deranged Hermit comes into play, put 4 squirrel tokens into play. They're 1/1 green creatures, and all squirrels get +1/+1. Recursion, all kinds of crazy ways of bringing this bad boy back. Make him an essential card for your squirrel deck. But again, you buy one, you're done, and then you're having fun. I know it rhymed. That was sad. That's okay. We're going to keep going with this video. All right, Hithis of the Scale, guys. Here we have a card coming in at number 2 for 156 sales, which is only 156 bucks because the average price is only $1. This thing has been as high as $20, and this one has a little bit of a tail of the tape because this card has been as high as $20, which means this card has a lot of potential of going a lot higher and making somebody a lot of money. Because if dragons become a big thing again, which they inevitably do every couple of years, this card spikes in value. And whoever is cornering the market on this is going to see massive returns on investment because of their cornering the market when the card's dirt cheap. Buying this card for only a couple of bucks and getting yourself 100 copies and so on, that's insane, because if you can sell them for $5 or $6 later, undercutting the market on an increase, you're going to come out making thousands of dollars. Pay attention to this, guys. This kind of stuff is insane to see, and it happens every single day. Taking control of dragon, amazing. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at our number one card. This is Mist Dragon, okay, from Mirage. $2.68 is the average, and this person, whoever bought them, managed to actually move the market with the 203 sales. It actually saw just a slight gain in the overall market response to this card being bought. It hasn't changed anything. It's not switching up how people feel about the card, but it's still something to take note of how easy it is to corner the reserve list market and crush it, which means if you have a cadre of a few friends going together, you can really rock the market on any given card, assuming everyone's got a few spare bucks around. Now, the Mist Dragon is a 2 blue, 4 generic, and it's a 4/4 flyer, okay? Well, sorry, it's a dragon. You can give flying for 0, you can take away flying for 0, and this thing can phase out. The phasing out is the interesting ability. In case you're going to do a board wipe or something, if you got the mana, you can save this creature, and that's the interesting kind of aspect of it. The losing flying thing is kind of a novelty. It's not a be-all, end-all, but the dragon costs a lot to get out, so I consider this more of a fun buyout. Now, whenever we have a higher sales market on the reserve list, and it seems strong with a lot of consistency, even in low-end cards, you know the market is doing some movement for various reasons. Usually it's a consolidation of power. Somebody's got a few bucks, somebody has an idea, somebody has a theory on what's going to happen, so they're buying some cards in anticipation of what could happen. Now, this could be in relation to Duskmourn. This could be into future sets coming up with what we're going to see from Marvel. Either way, there is going to be some action in the market in the next few months based on reserve list sales. And there's also the speculators coming in just because there are decent cards they can get a good price on. Now, in the future, I'm going to have a video coming up talking about some of these issues with the reserve list and the fact the market can be so easily manipulated, and it's something a lot of you are not going to want to miss out on, but don't worry, that's still a little bit, a few days until that comes out. And for the end of this video, I want to remind people that these types of sales will come and go. There's interest, there's waxing, there's waiting on this market. We've been doing these videos now for a couple of years, and there's a lot of tracking information we can get from this market. Now, if I have learned anything in this time, it is to buy low, sell high. And when the high card goes back down, you buy it back with the profits and proceeds of selling in the high market. You may have to wait for it, you may have to time it a bit, but it seems to always go in those cylinder cycles of highs and lows based on how the market feels. But the good news is there's always new reserve list cards going up and down. There's always repeat offenders that go up and down, like Deranged Hermit. But the only difference we're starting to see is with the market for a card like Deranged Hermit, it is a solidification of price. When people build that Squirrel deck, when people buy that card of Deranged Hermit and they put it in that deck, they're not likely to sell it very often. They own it, they're going to keep it. And that's what happens with these low-end, mid-range reserve list cards that end up going up in value. Price memory kicks in, you're like, I'm not going to tear apart my deck and sell my Deranged Hermit for less than what I spent. I might as well just hold on to the card, enjoy the deck, and make tweaks and augmentations to it as new cards come along over the years of me playing and enjoying the game. That is the difference we're seeing in the last few years. Speculators are sometimes losing out on these deals because they can't rebuy at the lower market. Cards like this being bought are being held, and they're not coming back. They're not being dribbled back into the market, and that's something to pay attention to for the long haul, not the short term right now, but longer down. Sorry, a little bit of a hiccup was almost coming there. Anyway, thanks a lot for hanging out. Thanks for being here on the video. I look forward to seeing you guys on the live stream, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. And if you're here at this part of the video, there might be another video coming. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you guys soon. Have a great day. Hey guys, a big shout out and thank you to the fantastic patrons of my channel. Because of those patrons, daily uploaded content is made possible for YouTube, but also is the exploration of new ideas on the channel, expanding on our video formats and information gathering service. So thanks again everyone for helping me out. To my patrons, my YouTube membership members, and of course the viewers of this channel. I'll see you guys tomorrow with another video. Have an awesome day. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. You've made it to the end. Now, isn't it interesting to see that the consolidation of reserve list cards is becoming a big thing? When you have TCG player stores or your local card shop, and they don't have 50 copies of a low-end reserve list card anymore. They got one, they got two, because when they had 50, somebody bought them out. When they had 20 or 30 copies of any given card for a couple of bucks, somebody says, well, I might just buy them all and save on the shipping. And then that player, that person at home, that person with a little storage box, is consolidating those cards and has a couple hundred copies. Well, that couple hundred copies also means that any sealed boxes don't have access to those. People who maybe have stuff in their attics don't have access, and all the stuff that's ended up in the landfill, garbage, or in fireplaces over the years means we are seeing a little bit of a supply gap on people who may want to buy the card for fun versus those who may actually want to utilize the card. Now the difference is many reserve list cards are not valuable. They're not. They're collectible because people like having them. But once in a while, those cards flip and do become a playable card, and that's where we're seeing that kind of crunch in the supply and demand. So either way, it's fascinating to see, and I can watch it play out over time on my spreadsheet, saying, well, look how many copies I had this time of year, look how many copies I had this time of year, and you can see it shrinking year over year, and that's, I mean, it's not a huge gap every year, but sometimes it gets pretty fast and furious, and you just can't find copies. Anyway, thanks a lot for hanging out. Thanks for being here for the Ramble Jamble. I'm going to do gardening.